In 70 AD, the Roman army sacked Jerusalem, scattering its people to the ends of the earth. For nearly 2,000 years, the idea of this nation returning to its homeland seemed impossible. By any normal historical logic, they should have vanished. Empires rose and fell, but they endured. What if one ancient book predicted not only their unprecedented dispersion, but also their miraculous return? What if the most unbelievable prophecy in the Bible has already happened in our lifetime, and the rest is coming to pass right before our eyes? When most of us hear the word Bible, we think of faith, morality, or ancient stories. But it also claims to be a book of prophecy. And perhaps no prophecy is more specific, more historically testable, and more challenging to our modern worldview than the prediction of the total scattering and eventual regathering of one single nation. This isn't a vague horoscope-style prediction. It's a detailed two-part prophecy that took nearly 2,000 years to play out, and the evidence that it has is hard to ignore. Long before Roman soldiers ever set foot in Judea, the Bible laid out a sobering warning. In the book of Deuteronomy, Moses prophesied that if the people of Israel were unfaithful, they would be scattered among all peoples, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. Millennia later, Jesus gave a much more immediate and vivid prophecy. Looking at the magnificent temple in Jerusalem, he warned that the days would come when not one stone shall be left upon another that shall not be thrown down. He went on to say the inhabitants would fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations, and that Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. This wasn't just a prediction of losing a war. It was a prophecy of complete national dissolution. A people torn from their home and thrown to every corner of the globe. History records that in 70 AD, this prophecy was brutally fulfilled. The Roman army, led by Titus, besieged Jerusalem, utterly destroying the city and its temple. The Jewish people were killed, enslaved, and driven out of their land, kicking off a diaspora that would last nearly 2 millennia. Think about that for a second. Can you name another nation in history that was completely uprooted from its homeland, scattered across the entire planet for almost 2,000 years, yet managed to keep its distinct cultural and religious identity without a land to call its own? It's a truly unprecedented event in the story of humanity. For centuries, the fulfillment of the first part of the prophecy was a long and painful historical reality. By any human standard, the idea of them ever returning was impossible. But the very same book that predicted the scattering also made a promise, one that for centuries must have sounded like pure fantasy. The prophet Isaiah, writing hundreds of years before the Roman destruction, spoke of a future restoration. He asked a question that must have seemed absurd for most of history. Who has ever heard of such a thing? Who has ever seen such things? Can a country be born in a day or a nation be brought forth in a moment? Other prophets like Jeremiah and Ezekiel echoed this same impossible promise. They spoke of a day when God would gather the remnant of Israel from every single country where they had been driven and bring them back to their own land. This was the second half of the prophecy, not just a scattering, but an unbelievable regathering. If this message gave you strength, subscribe, so you're never walking this journey alone. For nearly 2 millennia, that promise lay dormant. Then, in the 20th century, the impossible started to happen. On a single day, May 14, 1948, the ancient rhetorical question from Isaiah seemed to find a stunningly literal answer. After centuries of wandering and persecution, the modern state of Israel was established, formally recognized by world powers. In a very real sense, a nation was born in a day. Jews from the 4 corners of the earth, from Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas, began to flood back to their ancestral homeland. They were fulfilling those ancient prophecies of a worldwide regathering, an event with virtually no historical precedent that seemed to defy all the normal rules of politics and history. It was happening, just as the Bible described. The exiles were coming home. So what do we do with this? We have a book that predicted a specific nation would be completely torn apart and scattered across the globe, and then, after a very long time, would be miraculously regathered into its own land, reborn in a single day. We have watched both parts of this incredible prophecy be fulfilled in recorded history. This isn't about twisting a vague verse to fit the facts. It's about a clear, detailed, two-part prophecy that took 2 millennia to unfold, and it came to pass in our modern world. And yet, it's a story so big, so profound, that most of us never stop to consider what it truly means. What spoke to your heart today? Comment Amen or share your story below. Your words inspire future videos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's always room at the open table.